What's happening, bulls and bears? You're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust, back with another dose of economic reality. Bull to the bust. Let's go ahead and get into the news. We're also going to get into our newer format where we hear from individuals giving their thoughts on the cost of living, the economy, inflation, rising prices, how to get by in this economy, all those things that we talk about here in this channel. Please make sure you're subscribed. Also, we have things thrown onto the street or belongings, personal property, items, belongings thrown onto the street as an 82-year-old person, a couple in this case, gets evicted from a home that they invested like $20,000 into. It's a crazy story. We're going to get to that video, that report. We're going to hear from, again, like I said, individuals. But on the other side of that, we're going to have some, what I think is insane economic news. Things are about ready to get a lot worse, a lot more expensive. The cost of living is about ready to fight even harder. And we're going to try to dig down into the causes and the reasons and what we can try to do to fight back against this here. But first, let's start right here with this story. Pretty sad one. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this story here.
An 80-year-old couple and their grandson out on the streets, and this is after an eviction in Clark County.
This is a devastating story, but it's part of a larger issue. As state experts say, Clark County is seeing some of the highest eviction rates on record. Joel Jones spoke with those tenants for this exclusive story.
First of all, what did we tell you right here in this channel years ago? We said all the things happening with evictions. Remember, they put a freeze on evictions for years. Most states had some sort of eviction moratorium. We said it's not going to fix the problem. It's a temporary solution, but overall the cost of living still continued to rise. So we said as soon as these eviction prevention programs are done, it's just going to increase or get worse. And now we're seeing record levels of evictions in many places, including stories like this. Take a listen.
Absolutely heartbreaking. You can see family heirlooms, toys for their grandson, and medical equipment for this veteran and his family still left on
a veteran, medical equipment thrown onto the street, folks.
On the streets days after the couple in their 80s says they were forced out. Now, the wife admits they owed money and says they expected to leave, but tells me she never thought they'd be forced to pick up the pieces.
Very hurt. It's starting all over.
Marlene and Tom Berg say in the 15 years they lived in this Vancouver home, payments were made on time. But when a water heater broke in January, Marlene says the couple fell behind on rent following Tom's extended stay in a nursing facility.
I've been praying him for over 2 months to bless him and to get treated like that.
Despite investing roughly $20,000 in repairs, the Bergs say the courts ordered them out by September 2nd.
Why would you invest $20,000 to repair a home that you're renting? This is what we're seeing, folks. We're seeing slumlords not doing repairs, and you're late on rent, you're gone. Even though you've invested a bunch of money into the home. I wish these people wouldn't have done that. Let's continue.
Days later, they watched as their belongings were tossed to the street.
It's just heartbreaking, just watching them throw stuff.
The couple is not alone. State data shows eviction filings in Washington continue to rise since the sunset of moratoriums in.
Look at that. The moratoriums right here, where you couldn't evict people, and most states had this, right? And now we've zoomed past the 2018 high. So again, what was supposed to help people made things worse in the end.
2021. The state already on track to outpace the record-breaking eviction filings seen in 2024.
Clark County is the single largest rise in eviction filings in Washington state.
Philippe Nab is the Eviction Defense Program Director for the state's Office of Civil Legal Aid. Since launching statewide right to counsel for low-income tenants in 2021, he says the program has represented over 30,000 people. But despite increased tenant protections, he says cases continue to climb.
What we're seeing in places like Clark County is that evictions are literally 100% what they were pre-pandemic filings. What that means is that an incredible amount of people in Clark County are facing displacement.
People like the Bergs. Marlene now left to care for Tom's disability without other medical equipment lost in the eviction.
There are health issues that I don't know where stuff is. I don't have all this medicine. So it's hard.
Now, Washington law does require landlords give residents 45 days before tossing items out. I reached out to the Berg's landlord, but did not immediately hear back. Now, the National Women's Coalition Against Violence and Exploitation is now partnering with the Bergs to temporarily house them and connect them to medical care and additional resources. They've also started a fundraiser, which you can find linked out at coin.com. Reporting in Vancouver tonight, I'm Joelle Jones, Quint 6 News.
Folks, I mean, you could say that it's unfair, that it's wrong, but I don't think the landlord did anything illegal. If you don't pay your rent, you're going to get kicked out. The problem is, why does rent cost so much? Why are so many people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond so struggling so much financially? Why are people not able to save for retirement? And if you do save for retirement, why is the money gone so quickly? Folks, the cost of living crisis is here. It's real. And the scary part is, if it hasn't affected you yet, get ready, because it's probably going to affect you, because things are just getting worse, right? They're not doing anything to fix the underlying problem. And that's too much money being pumped into the economy via loans, people borrowing money, and people don't have any restraint on spending, and people don't know how to say no. So that makes prices go up even more. Listen to this person that breaks down what one of the biggest problems is people's inability to stop spending, right? And that's everything from renting homes to just buying things at the store. You've got to say no, and that's the only thing that's going to bring prices down. That's one of the things. I shouldn't say the only thing, but take a listen to this.
I hate to be the one to say this, but the reason that the cost of living is so high, and the reason that regular household items and groceries continue to increase, is because we don't know how to stop purchasing things. We don't know how to say no. We don't have self-control. Like, if I think about history and why in the history books people actually got like a little bit of change, it's because they had some sort of resistance, some sort of self-control. We literally buy. Amazon, TikTok, freaking Target, Fashion Nova, Shein, whatever the case may be. All of these stores always gets orders just coming in and out.
And because of easy credit and credit card limits that never seem to stop increasing, people are still going to spend no matter what. Nobody has restraint. Nobody's saying no. And prices will not come down if you don't say no. If not just you, but if a lot of people don't say no and stop buying these things, then prices will not come down. If you're willing to pay whatever for rent, prices will not come down. If you're willing to put whatever it is you need or want, maybe you don't even need it, you want it. And if you're not going to stop putting it on a credit card and buying it, even though you don't have the money, prices are still going to go up here. Let's finish up this video.
At what point do we say no? At what point do we fight back?
Thank you. Why are people not talking about this more? I'm just glad to hear more people talking about it. There have been more people out there putting this out there. I've been saying this for years, but putting this out there, and it's not the only problem, right? We have helicopter money, that's a problem, but people's addicted personalities, or people that are addicted to spending, they just can't say no. It's like spending addicts.
Because the reality of it is, the government is looking at us like, okay, they're never going to stop. So why would we decrease the price on anything? Y'all need to just make some more money and fend for yourselves. But no, everybody has to have the latest everything. I don't know. But coming into the new year, January 2025, I will not be purchasing anything that is not necessary. And I say this, and I'm holding myself to it, because I am tired of eating my money. I am tired of wearing my money. It needs to go somewhere else.
No spend 2025. Well, how's that working for us? Let's see. We're in September. We're going to be entering the fourth quarter here in less than a month. Means we're about 75% through the year. 9 out of 12 months are almost done. And the cost of living hasn't come down. So no spend 2025 did not work. I'm not sure how many people participated in it, but it doesn't look like many people. And even people with really bad credit. I noticed this today at my job. Working in finance, people with credit scores in 450 to 500 to 550 still have credit cards with $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 credit lines. And I had a customer today, a client that had a total of almost $70,000 in available credit on their credit scores. Their credit score, or their credit limit rather, $70,000, nearly a credit limit available, but their credit score, is what I'm trying to say, was less than 600. Folks, something's wrong when you have a less than a 600 credit score and you have like over $60,000 in available credit on credit cards. That's a recipe for disaster. And of course, this person had a lot of debt, and they had used a lot of that 60-something thousand, nearly $70,000 available credit. They used a lot of it, and they're to the point where they can't keep up with the payments now. So interest is starting to accrue because they're not paying off the cards in full each month, and the balances are jumping higher than ever before, faster than ever before. And this is what's happening across the nation, folks. Evictions are getting worse. Cost of living is rising. Delinquencies are getting worse. More people not paying off their credit cards. We're starting to see the housing market crack and tilt in the other direction here. Let's get into that before we hear from a few other individuals. And here's some recent happenings on the housing market, folks. In California, and California is usually the canary in the coal mine. What happens in California usually ends up spreading across the United States. The time that it took for a home to sell in August is the highest that it's been in about 10 years. So these homes are being put on the market. They're sitting there for almost 2 months. And that's now nearly the highest in 10 years. All right, so there is a slowdown. It's not a crash. We're not going to see a housing market crash, but things are starting to shift very noticeably. And this thing's happening in slow motion. This crisis has been ongoing, so it's been happening for a while. So people think that nothing's happening because they hear me talk today and look at what I said last year. I said things were getting worse last year. Things continue to get worse. It doesn't mean that things are going to go off of a cliff tomorrow or next week, but it does mean that at some point there's going to be a turning. It may not be a crash, but things are definitely changing, and not in a good way. So if you're not on top of your game, if you're not secure in your job, if you don't have an emergency expense put away for at least 6 months, you could be in big trouble at a job loss, or even having to look for a different job, right? Some people are changing jobs because they're stressed out at their current job, but they're not making enough in the new job. So things are not improving for most people, even people that are changing jobs. And with the slowdown now in the housing market, we're seeing some noticeable things that are correlated with that. For example, lumber prices are flashing a warning for the U.S. economy. Wood prices are sliding and mills are cutting back because of uncertainty over tariffs and a building slump. A part of that is homes are sitting on the market longer, so builders are not seeing the demand like they used to see, and therefore lumber prices are falling. We saw this before the 2008, 2009, 2010 housing bubble bust or housing market bust, and we're seeing a similar price drop in lumber like we did back then. Now, anything can happen. This is not a guarantee that we're going to see a drastic change in the housing market, but I would hold off on buying a home. I wouldn't be buying a home right now. In some areas, yes, there's not a housing bubble in every state, but in some areas, I would not be buying a home right now, like California, for example, where I'm at. Thankfully, I bought in 2010. If I was a newcomer to the state, I would not be buying a home right now in California. There's other states too I also would not be buying right now. Would not be buying in Texas, would not be buying in Florida, and other overpriced states. But we also have the powers that be are fighting back against this slowdown in the housing market. In fact, mortgage demand jumped to the highest level in 3 years because they just dropped interest rates, right? So there's some manipulation happening where they're trying to get the housing market heated back up. They don't want home prices to fall. They want home prices to keep going up. So the average contract interest rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage, $806,500. The rates decreased from 6.64 to 6.49, so a slight drop, but even that was enough to kickstart some mortgage demand. Also, recent news, Americans are drowning in auto loan delinquencies. We're up there for subprime. We're worse than we were in the financial crisis, and even non-subprime is getting up there to all-time highs now. And they're saying that Congress needs to fix it. No, Congress can't fix it. You can't pass a law putting a temporary freeze on vehicle repossessions or doing some sort of loan forgiveness is not going to fix the underlying problem. It's temporary. It's a Band-Aid on a broken leg. It's just going to make things worse ultimately, because when those programs are done, the costs are just going to still bite into people's budgets, and people are not going to be able to manage the high cost of vehicles right now and automobiles, and they're not going to be able to pay their loans, right? Even with lower interest rates, that might help a little bit, might help some people refinance that are in these super high balance loans, but it's not going to fix the underlying problem. In other words, things are about ready to get worse. And look at this, folks. All the jobs that were supposed to come back to the United States because of all the tariffs and everything happening right now, that is not working. U.S. is losing thousands of manufacturing jobs, a recent analyst discovered. And we told you right here on this channel this was going to happen, folks. Manufacturing jobs aren't going to come back. Companies do not want to open up shop here in the U.S. for the most part. Some are. But we're still seeing more outsourcing than we are jobs coming back and companies coming back. Why? Because companies don't want to come back here and have to pay these high wages that people are demanding. And people are demanding these high wages because the cost of living is too high.
So I just took my teenage daughter out to the mall. And of course, they wanted to eat somewhere healthy. And guess what? We paid $75 for 2 protein bowls. I don't know. What am I missing? What happened to normal eating out prices?
Folks, we just talked about this. This person paid $75 for 3 bowls of white rice and chicken. Maybe it's a meal. Maybe she got some sides with it. But for 3 bowls, $75. It's at a mall, so it's going to be more expensive. And it's one of these healthy places. I've never heard of it. I don't really go to the mall that much. So let's see here. Is it a healthy place?
So I just took my teenage somewhere healthy.
Yeah, somewhere healthy.
And guess what?
Sprouts with a Z. Sprouts with a Z at the mall. If she's right, folks, $75 for 3 bowls. Here's the problem. She still bought them. Did she not see the price on the menu? Did she not know what she was buying? And that goes back to what we talked about earlier and the person that said we've got to stop spending. We got to say no. We've got to have a limit. And people like this buying these bowls, 3 bowls for $75, they're part of the problem. Because if you keep buying these things, that restaurant right there, that food place, food joint in the mall, they're not going to lower their prices. You've got to say no. Right? They're going to have to drop their prices or they're going to have to shut down and just leave. So if enough people say no, they will drop prices. And sometimes that doesn't even work. They end up dropping prices and they end up going out of business because their expenses become more than what they're making. So they do have to charge a certain amount. But to me, that looks like greed and price gouging right there. $75 for 3 bowls. Outrageous, insane, pick your word.
At this point, I don't even know if it's worth it anymore. How are we supposed to survive and live as humans, parents, adults? I dropped my son off at preschool this morning, and the director came up to me and he handed me a new pamphlet for this year and a paper, and he was like, our tuition is going up. Sir, what do you mean? I already pay $190 a week for him to go Monday.
Is she surprised that tuition's going up? Everything's going up.
Through Friday, 7:30 until about 4:30. The price went from $190 to $265. I'm gonna show you so you don't think I'm lying.
The price went up, but guess what? She's going to end up paying it because she probably doesn't have any other alternatives that are cheaper. So what does that mean? That means next year the price will probably go up again because she paid it this year. Maybe she has to. Maybe she's working and she has nobody else to watch her kid. So it's going to go up again next year probably because she's paying this year. People have to say no, but many people are trapped. And when it comes to childcare, many people, they'll have to quit their job if they don't have their kid in childcare or daycare. So, yeah, let's continue.
$265. This tuition is almost as much as my rent. This is why moms don't work anymore. It is cheaper to stay home and take care of their kids.
Tuition almost as much as rent. That must have been a weekly cost. $265. Wow.
Contemplating life anymore.
People are second guessing starting families. I mean, the people that I see stressed out the most have families to provide for.
As I'm growing older, I'm just seeing like all these jobs I work at like don't really mean much. Like it just helps pay my bills and helps me like stay afloat and pays for the roof on my head. But it's like, what else does it give? And I think that's what a lot of people are realizing is like you get like 25 or 30 bucks an hour, if not more, maybe even 100 grand. But it's like, shit, what can I get with it when everything is so expensive these days? Houses are 500 grand and they're shitty. In some areas, maybe 300 grand, and depending on the area. But it's like, is it really worth it for some house? You're paying so much for just like to live or like own something. And like,
I hear him. I heard from somebody earlier that said 100 grand is the new minimum wage. I mean, in California, yeah. I mean, you might as well be making minimum wage. 100 grand in California. I mean, if you're a single person, you could probably do it and do pretty well. But if you have even one or two people that you're having to pay everything for, it's really very difficult, even on 100 grand.
all these taxes and insurance and bills, it's just like, holy shit, what am I even working for? And that's why I'm just seeing like a lot of homeless people like they just give up. Like, it's crazy.
Folks, more people living out of storage units, more people, of course, not even having a storage unit, living on the streets, living in tents. And we're going to get into that more in the next episode, folks. Crazy things are happening, and it's about ready to get crazier. Brace for it, buckle up, but keep stacking, be ready, and be ahead of the curve here. And we'll see you in the next video. Hope to see you then. Bye for now. Peace.